Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Good morning, everybody. This is Paul Sir, along with Ryan Reed here at your Sports Leader Sports 1444, the basketball show. Ryan, good morning. How you doing?
I feel great. There's something about driving in the rain. I like driving in the rain. I mean, not when it's like dangerous, and there was parts, honestly, of the Whitemud that were super wet, but there's something just about therapeutic with driving in the rain, listening to.
I thought last night's thunderstorms were exactly that, yes. Therapeutic.
Unless there's a tornado, then it's like, oh.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
There was a funnel cloud warning, I think, yesterday morning. But.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, yesterday was very unsettled, but it really is therapeutic to have that. We had our daughter-in-law, Caitlin, and our granddaughters over for dinner last night, and Caitlin was saying it's very comforting to hear the rain coming straight down without the wind, the howling wind. It really is.
It's not super cold out either. Like it's just walk around.
Summer rainstorm. Yeah. It really was lovely. But we're going to talk about the NBA today. We got lots to talk about. We're also going to be talking about the WNBA. We're really pleased that Teresa Resch, the president of the Toronto Tempo, the newest WNBA franchise that will kick off their season of play in 2026. Teresa joined me for a pre-recorded conversation yesterday. We also have 2 other pre-recorded conversations with Ben Golliver, who's a regular, as you know, from the Washington Post, one of the great NBA writers and great NBA analysts, and we got into a great discussion about the series. Now, both for Ben and our other guest, Mr. Jack Armstrong, longtime voice of the Toronto Raptors. We all know Jack. Just a cult figure of enjoyment. He absolutely lights up a room, and it doesn't matter where Jack is. The room is happier with Jack in the place. He's just such a wonderful guy. He and I had a good talk, and man, you want to hear all of these interviews because they're all extremely, extremely interesting. So we'll be bringing those up. Teresa will be with us at 10:40. We have Ben at 10:20, and then we're going to do Jack at 11, and we're going to play the full interview because you got to hear this. We really get into the weeds on not just the series, and we get into a great discussion on the Raptors, but we also get into a lot of basketball stuff, like on-court stuff. And Jack, of course, was a Division I coach and really has a tremendous basketball mind. So, but let's start with that. We have a fun, I think, quiz. What do we call it?
People are graduating. No school anymore. It's a poll, not
it's
a quiz
poll.
or a test,
That's
an exam.
It. Yes.
Yeah, no.
We have a fun poll question today.
Yeah, I hope people didn't think it was the Weather Channel and flipped away. So I'm glad you kind of gave the full rundown there of what was going on today.
Well, I'm going to get into the long-range forecast in a minute here.
Expect slight showers in Edmonton this morning.
The 14-day forecast on your drive home today.
Anyway, so poll tonight this morning is who wins in a 1v1 at age 26. So the averages in the age 26 season for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Michael Jordan are as follows. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this season averaged 33 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. This is all rounded up or down. Michael Jordan averaged 34, 7, and 6 assists.
Isn't that incredible? Because of the legend of Michael Jordan. And the fact that Michael Jordan played a long time ago. We're talking about 30 plus years ago.
That's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago. And most of the new basketball fans have only seen clips of Michael Jordan, and you just hear about the legend. But for those of us who are longer in the tooth and have seen not just Michael Jordan, but many other stars in different eras being posed this, I find it fascinating because they're both 6'6". At that stage of, pardon me?
It's a great height to be.
Great height to be, you should know. And both 6'6", both wiry, approximately the same build. Michael was maybe a little bulkier, but at that juncture, like in his second three-peat, Michael was a full 10 to 15 pounds heavier, pure muscle.
Grown man, right?
He was a big boy then. But Shai and he have similar frames.
MJ also started later, so Shai, this is like year 7 or 8 for Shai. He was drafted in 2018, so year 7. And Michael Jordan was drafted after his, was it sophomore
year?
Yeah.
Sophomore year, so second year. Yeah. So make sure you get your responses into us. And the number, Ryan?
833-401-1440.
Okay,
if you'd like to text, and then on Twitter it's basketball_show.
Okay, and
maybe it's one of those things that makes me a boomer, but I always say I will never say X. I always just say Twitter.
Yeah, well,
is that bad?
Well, gosh, no. You're 12 years old. I mean, that's not bad at all. Like for guys like me, we barely know how to pronounce Twitter. I go, what's a tweet? But and if you have any other commentary on the NBA Finals, anything happening in the WNBA or the Stingers, and by the way, the Stingers. Man, did they have a great week. Ryan was part of the broadcast crew along with Doug McLean and myself as we were down at the Expo Center this past week when the Stingers had a nice, what I would call turnaround win against the Ottawa Blackjacks. And it was a big game because the Stingers at that point were 2-5 and really struggling, had given up over 100 points in 2 of the previous 3 games, really had not found any rhythm at all. They made a couple of personnel changes, releasing of one player, bringing in Chris Smith, 6'9", UCLA grad, and had a real nice win against Ottawa. And then last night they went into Niagara and they slapped the River Lions. And the River Lions are no slouches. They are the defending CEBL champion, and they have pretty much their whole team back. And the Stingers went in and dominated. Now, one regret, and I have to issue an apology right now, is I had another really nice pre-recorded interview with Keon Ambrose Hilton, who has emerged as a surprise star, actually, for the Stingers. And he is just a delightful guy. What a great conversationalist with an interesting story and perspective. But we had a technical problem. The link from wherever he was in Ontario just garbled up the interview, and so we're gonna bring Keon back. But good on the Stingers to have the kind of turnaround now at 4-5 and a lot of momentum, and really seem to be finding their rhythm.
Keon's I had a chance to interview him too, and he's a fun interview. He keeps the conversation going. He has decently long-winded answers, so I don't know if they just keep firing at him like it's like a job interview. For Keon, he's a great guy, and
he is. Again. He is very well spoken. Just got his master's at SMU. Like he's a really, really bright guy with a brilliant future, both in basketball and beyond basketball. You're listening to the Basketball Show, Sports 1440. Paul Sir, Ryan Reed with you this Saturday.
Quick thing for Keon is I said good game to him after the game and shook his hand, and he's like, I'm Keon, so I hope he didn't think my name was Good Game. I hope he just misheard me.
Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. That's pretty good. Well, let's talk about last night's game between the Indiana Pacers, the Oklahoma City Thunder, after a pretty convincing defeat in Game 3. Came back and won 111-104. Gilgeous Alexander, who had, I think, been rattled by the kind of high-pressure defense that the Indiana Pacers were throwing at him. Fellow Canadian, longtime, lifelong friend, actually, Ryan Nembhard. He and Shea were throwing some elbows off camera at each other. You could tell there was definitely something on the line there. But they turned it around last night. Pacers, though, here's my perspective on last night, Ryan. The Pacers had a great 3 quarters and were up 7 in the 4th. And then I thought the combination of Gilgeous Alexander getting going, but a lot of the reason I thought Gilgeous Alexander, the Pacers somewhat contributed to Gilgeous Alexander getting going because they started committing the kind of fouls again that Gilgeous Alexander baits you into. And Neesmith in particular had a couple of just atrocious fouls on Gilgeous Alexander where he's putting his arm on his shoulder, and anytime you touch Shea, he's going to drive his arm into you and draw the contact, James Harden-esque in his ability to draw fouls. And I thought, man, did that ever change and shift the momentum?
I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast on the way in here, and he was talking about it felt like the Thunder kind of broke through, and they kind of figured it back out, so to speak, where they maybe the 2-man game at the end of the game, there was Shea, they're targeting Naismith and Andrew Nembhard, and they were able to get the fouls that they were getting early in the playoffs and in the regular season, and kind of that's how they got so good. In my opinion, I thought whoever won this game won the series. I feel that if the Thunder figured it out like they did towards the end, maybe not figured out, maybe a little bit too generous, but they got the win, and Shea was able to get going near the end. They were able to get a 7-point win. Now that it's 2-2, they just have to win 1 and split home and away. They have to win Game 5 and then split one of the next 2, right? And if the Pacers won that game, they're up 3-1.
Which is hard to overcome.
Exactly. So I just thought I think the Thunder would now win in this one. I think it goes to 7. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if both NHL and NBA series went to 7. That hasn't happened since 1994. So it'll be kind of fun.
I think it will be interesting because I think the comment that the Thunder figured something out is true. Absolutely. Gilgeous Alexander, he was somewhat sporadic throughout the game, but then as the game went on, and particularly in the 4th quarter, you talk about the defense wearing an offensive player down. I think it was actually the opposite last night, and the commentators made a point of that Shea was rested more in that game than he had been before, which is a genius move by the coach. And in those situations, they got amazing contributions. No surprise from Williams, Jason Williams. I mean, he's a great player. Ended up with 27, but 20 from Alex Caruso.
7 of 9.
7 of 9. He absolutely has been a monster on offense and not just on defense in this playoff. He didn't have a 20-point game during the regular season. He's had 2 in the NBA Finals. Talk about being ready for prime time. It really is an incredible story. So my point is they kept the team competitive and close, and a fresher Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, in the 4th quarter, it was actually the fatigue of the Pacers on defense that was the factor, as opposed to the factor in the other game, which was SGA's fatigue in the 4th quarter as well.
It's a recent development for my mom, but she's also from Hamilton, just like Gilgeous Alexander. So she's become a Thunder fan, is watching all the games and that kind of thing. And she texted me last night. She said, "This game is frustrating, making me nervous, and Doris Burke is annoying me," which is kind of funny.
Doris Burke is annoying all the time to me.
but it's funny you talk about OKC's depth that they supposedly have. They have 6 players that consistently contribute right now. Kenrick Williams is not really doing anything much for him. Isaiah Joe didn't play the second half, played 5 total minutes. Aaron Wiggins played 8 minutes. Cason Wallace had made 1 shot in 19 minutes. And the only guy off the bench that played was Alex Caruso. They have 6 guys, Paul.
Yeah, but this is the NBA Finals.
I agree.
But that's what happens. And I think to your point, that's what happens in the finals. You shorten your bench. You go with the guys that are going to get you there, and you don't run your rotations like you do during the regular season. In fact, I think the most important point of the NBA Finals is that what you did during the regular season only works part of the time because you're so well scouted. You're playing the same opponent game after game. You're making constant adjustments to take away their strengths. So bottom line was this, but I have one gripe. There was a play, personal story. Everybody who watches NBA history knows of the play when Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls were playing the Utah Jazz in Utah, and the push-off, or the Brian Russell falling down, Jordan with that famous 13-foot jump shot where he holds the follow-through that really sealed the game. Now, the Edmonton Energy were a pro team in Edmonton from 2008 to 2012. I was the coach for the first 3 years and the GM for 2. But we played down in Los Angeles against a team that had several ex-NBA players, Toby Bailey, Brian Russell, and there were 3 others that were ex-NBA guys. And we beat them. We split with them. Our guys played really well, but after the second game, we had a reception. And I was talking to Brian Russell, and I said, okay, the question everybody must ask you all the time, did Jordan push off? And since this is a family show, I won't use the first word, but he said, hell yes. Of course he did. Of course he pushed me. Last night, there was a key play at a key juncture in the fourth quarter. Gilgeous-Alexander drives baseline. Arm comes up, bumps Naismith off. Clearly an offensive foul. Falls back, clearly travels. Hits the shot. Remarkable shot. The way he was gathering himself and hit the shot, I mean, it was fantastic. But, man, how do you miss? And the ref was right there. And the arm came up clearly, made contact in his chest, pushed him away. He fell back traveling, and he hits the shot, and they allow it. That drives me nuts. Not that would have changed the outcome of the game, but that was a major point in the game that really gave the Thunder more momentum than they were already building. How can you miss that?
I will say you're still listed. I just Googled the Edmonton Energy on the Wikipedia. You're still listed as the guy there. So
I'm still the guy.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey, 15 years later, I'm still the guy. So,
and they call Scott Foster the extender as the referee, that he extends series. Adam Silver gives him a call if they need to bring him in to keep the series going. And
well, he did that
exactly. Maybe it's a little exaggerated, but there is some truth to the end of the game just calling stuff that really just shouldn't be called in play. And it's happened a lot for Shea
It shouldn't be called, and then the stuff that should be called, you don't call. Yeah. That drives me. Yeah. Both of those inconsistency drives me crazy in the playoffs, because then you just get that feeling like, come on, guys, really? You're not calling that, and you're calling this? It drives me absolutely nuts.
They're consistently inconsistent.
Absolutely.
Which is actually a paradox if you think about it. But
well, yes, true enough. Now, one more commentary on the Pacers. I thought in the last 4 minutes they did exactly what they shouldn't have done. And that is they went back to the default last 4 minutes of a game offense, where you put the ball in your best player's hands and you get him to make a play. And you stop running actions and you stop looking for players. Pascal Siakam had a really nice game going. He led the team in scoring with 20 points. He never touched the basketball on offense in the last 4 minutes, because it was all in Halliburton's and
you're just trying to get up past half court,
and I mean, Lou Dort is a beast. Oh man, is he suffocating like that? If you ever want the definition of suffocating NBA level defense, it's Lou Dort. Caruso's a great physical defender. Lou Dort's a suffocating defender.
Very smart, like a very clever guy.
Very smart, very positional, and unreal athleticism. And he really bothered Halliburton. Now, Halliburton had a couple of really nice takes to the basket off the window, but he had a couple of bad takes as well. Nembhard held on to the ball too long at times down the stretch. The Thunder had the quintessential example of great success on offense leading to more confidence and energy on defense, just like the Pacers had in Game 3. So that's what you saw. But last night, they they went back to this 1-on-5 mentality and just let's go make a play. I mean, I have no idea why they didn't try to isolate Pascal in the low block, like get a screen and roll with him, get him in the low block and let him go to work and do some inside out stuff. But there again, easy to say when you're armchair quarterback, armchair point guard, but when you're in the midst of the battle, you go with what you know. And it didn't work for the Pacers last night.
Speaking of North Montreal, Lou Dort also from North Montreal, but Benedict Mathurin, also a Montreal guy, I felt like he could have contributed a little bit down the stretch there. He's a bucket getter, and when things weren't working for the Pacers down the stretch, I'd be like, well, why not just give Mathurin a shot here? He's had 20 points in the finals game in his career. That's not many people that can say that.
Well, he had 27 the night before. Exactly. Was dominant, and he never touched the ball. No, I mean, down the stretch, he never touched the ball. And that live and die by one-on-one and pick and roll for the Pacers didn't work. It worked beautifully for the Thunder. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have one of our special guests that we're going to be playing for you. We're going to talk with Ben Golliver. And then at 10:40, we're going to have Teresa Resch. And then at the top of the hour, we're going to have Jack Armstrong on the program. So thanks so much for joining us on this Saturday morning, this rainy Saturday morning in the capital city. You're at the Sports Leader, Sports 1440 with Paul and Ryan here on The Basketball Show. Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, Paul Sir. Pleased to be joined once again by the Washington Post's NBA columnist, Ben Golliver. Ben, it's been a wild first 3 games of the NBA Finals, hasn't it?
It has, no question about it. I think we're not where a lot of people expected to be, with Indiana kind of in the driver's seat. Obviously, heading into Game 4, they got a chance to push the Thunder to the brink if they can win at home. So I've been surprised since really Game 1 when Tyrese Halliburton hit that amazing shot to cap off the rally. I feel like everybody's head's been spinning ever since he hit that shot.
Well, it really hasn't. And the 2 words that jump to mind about Game 3.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Ben, for me, is incredible intensity. I once in a while you see something special in any sport. And I think last weekend, for instance, we saw something special in tennis in the match between Sinner and Alcaraz. But I would say we saw something special the other night in the way that Indiana played at such a high level with such a high level of effort and intensity for 48 minutes. You rarely see 48 minutes of well-executed overall intensity like that, no matter if it's an NBA final or at any other juncture in the season, really in any sport.
No question. I think that they understood the moment very, very well as a team. Rick Carlisle has done a great job preparing them mentally, kind of coaching them up the idea that the NBA Finals is going to be a marathon. And they understand coming home from game three, that's going to be their best crowd. That's going to be their best opportunity to have an environment where it really gets to the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? And they did their part and the crowd did their part. No question about it. Not just Reggie Miller with the jersey courtside. I mean, I think that it was, it's been a great home court for them all postseason, and it really came through in game three as well. I think the intensity part to me that was most impressive was the defense. Coming into this series, everybody was talking about, okay, Indiana's amazing offense versus Oklahoma City's amazing defense. And I really focused on the idea often when we get matchups like that, the series is actually decided on the other end. And so that would be Oklahoma City's offense versus Indy's defense. And I thought, you know what, by the numbers, Indy's defense looks like the weakest group here. Like they don't have, big time, amazing athletes in the middle. They got a shot blocker, Miles Turner, but, he's been sort of league average center for most of his career. And then on the perimeter, they had some questions with a guy like Tyrese Halliburton and no ideal answer to throw at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. No, like all defensive level guy to kind of put on him, right? Well, that group, and it's really been togetherness, as you mentioned, it's the group intensity stepped up in such a big time way in game three. And I actually think Oklahoma City's offense now has been the weakest of all these groups and it kind of faltered in late game situations in both game one and in game three, and just really never sustained the appropriate rhythm across the second half of that game three. And you saw some really silly turnovers from Oklahoma City. I think those were forced very well by the Pacers and their energy, including on the inbounds plays, which I know is going to make any basketball coach pull his hair out when you're just throwing the ball into the opponents for layups on the inbounds plays. But then also, when they go smaller, they have a bunch of guys who can fly around the perimeter defensively, whether it's Mathurin, Ben Shepherd got a chance. Andrew Nembhard's obviously done a great job, or the best job you can possibly do on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Nesmith, I think, is probably their best perimeter defender. So they've got a nice core of guys to match up with the Oklahoma City perimeter players. And I thought that's what won them the game. I thought they were the more physical, the more energetic. They were winning loose balls. They were forcing turnovers. They kind of out-thundered the Thunder. They used their own blueprint against them, and I thought that was the difference in game three. That's very hard to do, and it's very hard to do again, right? So if you're trying to forecast the rest of the series, I think we could expect a big counterpunch from Oklahoma City because I don't think they're going to take that line down.
I don't think they will either, Ben. What's going to be interesting is if they make any adaptations on the offensive side of the ball, because the defense really has, I think, bothered Gilgeous-Alexander more than any of us thought it might. It really seems to have flustered him at times. Some of it has to be attributed to the way that the officials are calling the playoffs this year leading into the finals, because regular season, Gilgeous-Alexander would have been at the free throw line a lot more the other night in particular. But the physical play that was allowed to carry on was something I think. Now, first of all, I think it's great for basketball. That's number one. And number two, that's something that Oklahoma City is going to really have to look at. And are they going to have to actually do something that they haven't had to do for Gilgeous-Alexander this year? And that is start setting screens for him.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great point in terms of the way they're calling the games, allowing stuff to go, allowing it to be a physical and intense game. To me, this is probably the best basketball in the finals that we've gotten since maybe like 2016. If you look back over the last decade, we've had a lot of one-sided NBA finals where, the champions were great, but then maybe the runner-up wasn't quite up to snuff. And in some cases, injuries played a part, or maybe there was a little bit of a letdown series. 2022 with the Warriors and the Celtics was also a great series. But in terms of pure hoops, and not really a lot of off-court drama or anything like that, I mean, that's what this series has really brought to the table in a big-time way. And I agree, the refs have kind of stayed to the background, which has been, I think, good for the sport and good for the players, too. In terms of how do you free up Shai, well, they've tried a few different things. They just can't get their three-point game going, right? The ball movement really hasn't been there on offense for Oklahoma City. All season long, it was about drive and collapse and then pass around the perimeter, go from a good shot to a great shot. and get a wide open three. Well, that has just really been ground down in this finals. Indiana's done a nice job of helping and recovering to take away some of those threes. And you're seeing some of these young guys look a little bit shy when it comes to be their turn to shoot. I'm thinking, Casey Wallace would be an example of that. I would also look at Chet Holmgren. I think sometimes he's getting them up, but it's not always the most confident when he's shooting those threes. I think he was 0 for 6 from deep in game 3. It seems like maybe sometimes he's overthinking it, he kind of suffers both ways. He hesitates and then he overthinks, and then it's not really his pure in rhythm shot. And so for OKC, I think that's the easiest way to get Shea open, is to finally get some of these guys hitting threes. So Dagnall's got some options there, right? I mean, he went with Aaron Wiggins in game 2 and got a big-time response. That's a guy who can shoot some threes and create some offense. He's gotten good shooting, actually, out of Alex Caruso and Lou Dort, 2 guys who are kind of streaky shooters. And then he also, experimented a little bit with Isaiah Joe in game 3, and that's a guy who can shoot the ball as well. So for me, I think the answer is you got to figure out a way to get the court a little bit more open for Shea, and that's going to require getting more shooting on the court, and it's going to require those guys being ready to step up and hit their shots. And that's one of the challenges here, when you're talking about 2 pretty young teams in the finals. Sometimes a young guy like Benedict Mathurin from Montreal comes in and gives you 27 points and looks like the most confident guy on the court, even though he's only in his 3rd season, right? And sometimes you get a guy like Casey Wallace, who's in year 2, who doesn't really want to shoot that three and maybe throws up an air ball or barely hits the rim, right? And then Casey's had a great series. I'm not trying to pick on him, but I just am using that as a way to say, the unpredictability of the inexperience when you get to these big pressure moments is really hard for coaches to juggle. And I think we're seeing some of that right now on the Oklahoma City side. All year long, the Thunder.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Have basically been the deepest team in the league. And I think right now, Dagnall's looking around. He's actually trying to find more answers. He's saying, hey, I don't have enough guys here who are helping out offensively. Shea and Jalen Williams are doing all of the dribbling, right? And then everybody else is, just almost an afterthought on offense. And that's really not the team that we saw all year.
I'm talking with Ben Golliver from the Washington Post here on the Basketball Show's Deep Dive. I'm Paul Sir, your host. One adjustment that Indiana has made that I think is indicative of the experience and the intelligence of their head coach, Rick Carlisle, is the way, to your point, Ben, about the three-point shot, the way Indiana has done a great job on help and recover defense in taking away time from the three-point shooter. I have seen less of Indiana's defense being in no man's land, where they're not quite in help side and they're not quite on ball, but they have narrowed the space between the help side defense and the shooter. So to your point, I'm seeing young players feeling rushed and hurried and uncomfortable. And if you are able to accomplish that, at least through to this point, man, oh man, have you accomplished something really special?
Well, and I think it's a game plan thing as well, or a scouting report thing as well. You are able to recover to the Thunder shooters, almost all of them, because they are not threats to pump fake and drive and hit your defense in the heart, right? Kaysen Wallace is a pretty small guard. He's been starting for them. You can close out as hard as you want on him because where's he going to go? He's not going to want to get into the trees. Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, those are not guys typically who are looking to drive and finish through traffic. I mean, they've almost been programmed not to do that, right? The coaches are kind of insisting, please don't. And what we've seen with Chet is, he's gotten bodied by some of the physical bigs, whether it's Pascal Siakam or Miles Turner, when he's tried to, take the ball off the dribble. Obviously, Chet's still growing into his strength. He's still a young player. I think he's had some phenomenal moments in this postseason. But, him trying to create off the dribble, driving through 2 or 3 players, that's a recipe for turnovers and a recipe for him kind of getting muscled to the ground, right? So that's why you can close out pretty hard on all those guys. And I do think that impacts the quality of shots that Oklahoma City gets. And it's also led to some 24-second violations. It's another thing that we didn't see a lot during the regular season. OKC, number one in forcing turnovers with their defense, but also number one in protecting the basketball, having the fewest turnovers all year. And so the inbounds turnovers I mentioned earlier, the 24-second violations that they were running into in Game 3, those are very uncharacteristic for them. I think it's a sign of a young team that was struggling to adapt on the road and a young team that is really, at times getting overwhelmed a little bit by this Indiana Pacers defense. So I'm with you. I think a lot of this starts with coaching, right? I mean, they got to reset. They've got to find ways to get Shea more comfortable. And I think everything flows from that if you're the Thunder. But, I don't think we should undersell this. I mean, it's a team that won 68 games, that took down the 2023 champions in the second round with the Denver Nuggets. They blitzed through the Western Conference Finals. They are still favored going into Game 4 in Indiana by a pretty hefty margin. Even though they're young, this is an incredible team. And so if they don't get this done, this is going to be one of the all-time what-ifs. I mean, I even look at the Thunder when they made the 2012 Finals. That was a what-if, because they were so young, and obviously they got knocked out by LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, and they never made it back, right? Like, you can't squander these opportunities. We all agree OKC's future is very, very bright, but if you have a 68-win team and you run through everybody in the regular season, you got to finish the job here in the playoffs. And so I think the pressure is really up on their coaching staff and on their players to even the series in Indiana, and then eventually to pull this thing out, whether it takes 6 or 7, I don't know what their formula would be, but I think they should be feeling the heat. Don't you agree?
Totally agree. And I'm sure they are feeling the heat from the coaching staff on down through the players. That doesn't mean, like we both know, that this very talented, accomplished team won't respond. They very well could. This is where, going back to the idea of experience in coaching, I think really has made a difference to help Indiana almost overachieve. Carlisle won as a player. He's won a championship in Dallas. Carlisle's an older coach. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's comfortable with himself. He has really become an adaptable coach, which is something that I think is extremely impressive. Like, when you look at how Rick Carlisle over the course of his career, Ben, has evolved, compare, let's say, to another great coach in Thibodeau, who really always plays, his teams always play the same way, pretty much, some adapting this year, but not much. Carlisle really has evolved into a coach that evaluates his personnel and what they're capable of, and focuses, I think, as well as anyone, almost in a very special way, in getting his team to relax, believe, and stay in the moment.
Well, the analogy I've been using with Carlisle that I like, you go back to, say, the mid-2000s when his teams are trying to win, 80 to 79, right? I mean, that was how they played. Very low scoring, very, very physical. I mean, that's sort of what he made his bread and butter, with the Pacers and the Pistons back then. And now you look and he's like leading the biggest carnival in the league. I kind of compare it to the father figure that's like really strict, who has the curfew that won't let his kids drive the cars, won't let him get him a driver's license. But then once he becomes a grandpa, he's the cool grandpa. And it's like, oh, you want to borrow my Porsche? Here's the keys.
Very good.
Here's the keys. Do whatever you want with it. Come home at 3 a.m. Just don't wreck it. That's sort of the evolution he's been on, right? I think we all know people like that, right? Like the cool grandpa who started out as a little bit, too controlling as the father. But, I may be speaking from personal experience here with some of my grandparents, but that's exactly who Rick Carlisle is. And I think he just found the right guy to trust in Halliburton. It's like if you're going to continue to hit game winners in every single situation, why wouldn't Rick Carlisle give you the ball? And why wouldn't he decide not to call timeout in those situations and just turn you loose, turn you free? If you go back and look at all four of Halliburton's game-winning and game-tying shots in the playoffs, he's had one in each round. Every single one of those came with no timeout called by the coach. Everyone came in the flow of the game. And that's rare when we're talking about NBA games with, 10 seconds left, 15 seconds left, free throw situations. You just got a turnover on one of them.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
So I think it speaks to Carlisle's trust factor, his adaptability, like you mentioned, and then it also speaks to Halliburton's improvisational ability, his understanding of, his ability to make it up as he goes. I don't want to compare him to like a Magic Johnson or Steph Curry, but he's got that gene in him, right? Where, you throw him into you could throw him in an escape room with a blindfold on. He's going to figure it out. Like, he's not going to be overwhelmed. You saw when he was running backwards against the Knicks to throw up that crazy shot over Mitchell Robinson. You saw it in the scramble play in game one where he sizes up Cason Wallace and realizes, I can get a jumper here. Very, very good at thinking on his feet. And I think that's been one of the key characteristics that has bred the trust with Rick Carlisle, because you go back earlier in his career, there was clashes. He had a big clash with Rajon Rondo, borderline Hall of Fame type player, over control of the offense, and they did not see eye to eye. It got pretty ugly there for a while, and so I think it does speak to Rick's evolution, but I think it also speaks to, hey, this is a guy who doesn't turn the ball over, makes good decisions, and knows how to get his shot when the game is on the line.
You can hear the entire interview with Ben Golliver on our podcast that we'll have posted after our show today. You can get that on Spotify or whatever your podcast provider of choice is. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to have a really nice interview with Teresa Resch, the president of the Toronto Tempo, leading the WNBA charge into Canada. And Teresa was with the Raptors for a long, long time, is really embedded into the basketball world in Canada, and there's no one better to lead this franchise into this new territory where women's basketball gets celebrated as it should be in Canada. You're listening to the Basketball Show, Sports 1440, Ryan and Paul, and we'll be back right after these messages.
Welcome to the Basketball Show. I'm your host, Paul Sir. I am very pleased to be joined by the leader of the new Toronto Tempo, the WNBA franchise that's coming to Toronto for the 2026 season, the first WNBA franchise coming to our great country. Teresa Resch, thank you so much for making time in your very busy schedule to join me today.
No, it's great to be here. And just to be clear, this team isn't just coming to Toronto. We are Canada's team. So the name might say Toronto Tempo, but we truly plan to be Canada's team. And we look forward to finding ourselves across this country in different ways, showing up, hopefully even in regular season games. So nothing to report today. No breaking news today, but keep following us for news down the line.
I would have kept it secret. It would have just been between us, Teresa. But we'll move forward regardless. I think that's an important aspect of this, is that it is Canada's team. You're very familiar with the rather unique history of Edmonton, where I'm speaking from, with women's basketball. We have one of the great stories in the history of women's basketball. In fact, it might be the greatest story in the history of basketball, with the Edmonton Grads. And so we're very excited and take a lot of pride in the fact that you have been successful in drawing the WNBA to Canada. So maybe, Teresa, let's start with the journey of what it took to make this actually into a reality.
So a lot of it actually has to do with the fan base, right? So the WNBA, first and foremost, will be entering its 30th season when we launch in 2026. So there's been a lot of great work from a league perspective to be, at the time, in a place ready for expansion. And then when expansion was considered and the W knew that the league was in a good place, then it was like, okay, what markets are ready? And what markets are the ones that we want to make sure we're expanding to? And Canada was one of them, because of the fandom, because of the support that has been shown for, honestly, all female athletes at the elite level. Historically, the support that's being shown for basketball, the Raptors championship run and how the entire country showed up was a huge factor in that. And ultimately, the actions of people's time and money, right? Like, they're spending money to go buy tickets, to buy merch. It speaks volumes, and then they're spending their time, right? So viewership, things like that they looked at. And ultimately, we had an incredible owner at the table in Larry Tenenbaum that the league was very excited to be part of. So a lot of different factors go into it, but those are some big priority ones.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time on a fancy water bottle with ultra titanium alloy metal. You're not sure why you need all that. I mean, it just holds water. But you're getting it anyway. Because if you're hiking near an active volcano and you accidentally drop the bottle into molten lava, your water will still be icy cold. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time for water bottles. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
I love the way that you frame that, because what you stated is absolutely true. And while I look at it from a Canadian perspective, I do have to share a bit of an Edmonton unique perspective as well. The WNBA was here just over a year ago. We sold out immediately. Yep. Everybody is excited about that. We were the home of the Canadian women's national team for over 12 years. All building on this tradition that we have of the Edmonton Grads. So now the WNBA is coming to Canada in 2026. What does next year look like? What are the steps leading up to the season? And what are the hopes and expectations for the inaugural season of the Tempo?
Well, it looks like the most can't miss event in all of Canada in 2026, first and foremost. But in order to get there, we have to get some players. So we'll form a team. There's three kind of pathways that we can get players. There's going to be an expansion draft, date TBD, but we're expecting it late winter. The Valkyries had their draft this year in December, so we're expecting about the same. Then we'll also be able to convince players to join our team through free agency, and that happens at the end of January. And then we'll also be able to draft players in the college draft, which will take place in April, just a couple weeks before the WNBA season actually starts. So through those 3 channels, we'll be able to make our team. Before that happens, we'll hire a head coach. We have a bunch of people on a long list of season ticket depositors. We're going to start converting them to season seat holder members here shortly. And then we'll also have some more announcements. We'll have new partners. Corporate Canada has stepped up greatly, so we can't wait to announce some more of those. We'll have some more owner announcements. We already have announced that Serena Williams, as well as Sukhinder Singh Cassidy and Lily Singh, have all joined Larry Tenenbaum as owners of this team. And we'll also have a mascot, so keep an eye out for that. And then we'll also just be in the community. So we had a Tempo Live event in Toronto a couple weeks ago, end of May. We'll look forward to having bigger events that we will be hosting, but then we'll also be across the country amplifying other community events that are taking place already. So lots to do before we tip off, but we're excited about all the momentum that we have behind us and really like going forward. It's only going to get better. It only goes up from here.
This is the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. I'm your host, Paul Sir, joined by Teresa Resch. Teresa is heading up the Toronto Tempo initiative of bringing women's professional basketball into Canada. Teresa, this is a very dynamic time of change and time of growth for women's sports in general. But let's talk basketball in particular. I mean, the popularity last year of the WNBA, facts are facts. The controversy and ebbs and flows of that growth and popularity have been in the news a lot. A lot of it's social media stuff that people just do. But the bottom line is more and more people are excited about and watching women's professional basketball. Talk about the significance of that as you move forward with bringing the Tempo and the WNBA to Canada.
Absolutely. You're right. Like the last season was, I don't have the facts, but I'm going to go on a limb and say probably the best season in WNBA history, both commercially as well as competition on the court. Just really delivered an incredible product and people tuned in. And what's been incredible is, that was really led by Caitlin Clark. Like she transcended sport, she transcended basketball, you speak to people that had never cared about basketball or women's sports before, they knew her name. And what's great is that meant there's this casual audience that's now connected to the WNBA in a much bigger way. And what's great is they have stayed. So that means that there was a great product delivered. It means that they probably found out about her teammates. It means they maybe found out about other teams, and maybe now they even know about the Tempo coming to Canada. So it's incredible momentum going forward. And for us in Canada, we think that we can also usher in an entire new audience. And not that we're Caitlin Clark, but I think that there's an entire global reach that we are really the gateway to. And we can't wait to unlock that for not just the Tempo, but for this entire league. This league has been home to some of the best stories in all of basketball. But the problem is, like, a lot of people haven't known them. So we look forward to elevating our stories of our players, of our teams in this incredible league, not just in Canada, but globally as well.
Well, and I think you hit on a key point there in terms of global awareness, but when people started watching the WNBA, and I watched the WNBA in its infancy, and the quality of play, and you can equate this to the NBA, the quality of play then compared to the quality of play now, the pool of talent that the WNBA presents on a nightly basis. I mean, to see the Valkyries come in and be competitive right away is I think indicative of that. There's just so many great women players now. And I love the fact that it is an international league as well, bringing in players from all over the world. You've got such a great flavor that you're going to be bringing in, and that really does align not just with Toronto, but with all of Canada and its embracing of multiculturalism?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, about a quarter of the NBA is international, and it's about the same percentage in the W. But what is different is that, there's about 450 players in the NBA, and there's 144, I guess, with Valkyrie, so add 12 more. So there's 156 players in the W. So if you think about that, if you take the top 150 players of the NBA, and those are the only players that are facing off each night against each other, like that's what the WNBA is every single game. And there's also half as many games. So there's 44 games in a season as compared to 82 in the NBA, which means all of those games have that much more importance. So the level of basketball that's being played is so high. And it's incredible because every single night when those women go out there, it is imperative that they get that win, that they play well. And it's really, really a lot of parity and high competition within the league, which is really fun to watch. And yeah, it's a global game. Like I said, it's about a quarter international players. There's 4 Canadians on rosters this season. And what I think is going to be really telling is how that changes over the years. How can the Tempo's existence, similar to the Raptors, similar to the Carter effect that we hear about, and honestly, the championship effect from 2019, more people are interested, more people are paying attention, more people are playing, which means that there's going to be those elite players that will come from it, right? You see right now in the NBA, MVP of the league is Canadian, right? That doesn't happen without the influence and the aspirational teams that exist before it. And we look forward to and embrace our role in that. And we can't wait for little girls who are fans of the Tempo growing up to become MVPs of the league someday.
And that will happen. That absolutely will happen. Yeah, and when you look at Steve Nash being the MVP, but most of the Canadians in the league, other than Steve in his era, were role players. Yeah. Now, we were watching the NBA championship much of the time with 4 Canadians on the floor making huge impacts.
That's true.
And that's all evolution, and that will happen with girls as well. Teresa Resch from the Toronto Tempo is with me today here on the Basketball Show. Okay, Teresa, you talk about it's going to be Canada's team. What does that mean? How are you going to make this Canada's team?
I mean, it already is. Like, I don't think we have to make it. It already is. The fandom around this team is from coast to coast. Our merchandise went up for sale in January, and it was purchased from every single province and territory in this country. So yeah, the fandom in Toronto is probably a little bit more, but that's just because it's aligned with our team name, and that's where our home arena is. But we can't wait to have fan clubs. We can't wait to have ways for people to interact with this team without being in the arena. There's a stat that with the Maple Leafs, only 5% of the fans ever actually see them in person. And the Tempo is going to be the same, not because it's not accessible, but just because our fandom is going to reach from coast to coast, and we can't wait to embrace it. And everybody should feel part of this. We just launched a campaign this past week called Together We Win. It's really our inclusion platform. It talks about how we're trying to be a team that stands for and welcomes everyone. It's a pledge. The Toronto's Youth Poet Laureate wrote it and performed it. You can see it on our channels, and it's a pledge. And if you sign the pledge, there's a donation that goes to charities called You Can Play as well. But we're also going to show that before every single game. And it's about a lot of what we stand for is that we want to be a team for everyone. And that has to do with every part of who you are, including where you live.
Well, Teresa, I have no doubt that the goals that you have just shared with us, the vision that you're striving to achieve, I have no doubt it will be all of that and more. Great leadership like yourself and the team surrounding you. You're in a nation that aligns very much with the values that you just shared. And I can't thank you enough for coming on with me today, and look forward to talking again and actively following the evolution and the lead up to the launch of the Toronto Tempo.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. And I know you've done so much for the game, especially in Edmonton. So thank you for the work that you're doing as well, and for sharing our story. I'll definitely be back. I can't wait to talk about the Tempo more.
That was such a nice conversation with Teresa, because she, as you can hear, a quality individual, completely passionate, committed to what she's doing in bringing women's professional basketball to Toronto and to the entire country, of which Edmonton still leads the way with our rich, unique history for the Edmonton grads. We're going to take a break right now, and you are not going to want to miss the next interview as well. It's the trifecta today with Ben Golliver, Teresa Resch, and now the great Jack Armstrong is going to join us. And man, do we get into the weeds on basketball. So stay tuned for a great conversation. And you're listening to the Basketball Show on your sports leader, Ryan and Paul, on Sports 1440.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.